Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Fresh Air Campus webinar on communication strategies for announcing smoke and tobacco-free campus policies. I am Molly Reese, ORISE Tobacco Fellow with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in Region 10. And before we get started into the actual webinar, just a couple of housekeeping items. I'd like to let you know that you could submit questions using the chat box on your lower left-hand side of your screen. Go ahead and submit questions through that mechanism, and I will moderate the Q&A session at the very end of both presentations. So we'll just take all the questions and save them until the very end. And I'll also open up the phone lines at the very end if you prefer to ask your questions over the phone lines. So we are so pleased to have two wonderful colleagues with us to share their expertise on communications and marketing of smoke and tobacco-free campus policies. Andy Rigsby is a vice president at GMMB, a global strategic communications and advocacy firm. For 6 years, Andy has worked with the Washington State Department of Health Tobacco and Prevention Control Program to develop innovative strategies that promote smoke-free environments and heighten public awareness of the dangers of tobacco use. His work has spanned digital strategy, partnership development, and media outreach that has contributed to the placement of hundreds of print and broadcast news articles on behalf of the program. Andy is also a member of GMMB's Global Health Team, working primarily on Alive and Thrive, an initiative to reduce infant and child mortality caused by undernutrition in developing countries. With a focus on Bangladesh and Vietnam, Andy implements tailored country-level strategies to increase investments and political commitment to infant and young child feeding. Prior to GMMB, Andy worked in policy and advocacy at CARE USA. Managing CARE's Western Regional Advocacy effort, Andy worked directly with constituents and policymakers to encourage the adoption of stronger U.S. global health and development policies. Andy graduated from Wake Forest University in 2003 with a major in psychology and a minor in politics. We also have today Paula State, MS, and she is the community health practitioner who has been the director of health promotion for the University Health Center at the University of Oregon since 2000. In this capacity, Paula works collaboratively with campus and community partners to create a healthier environment on the U of O campus. Her work on tobacco control policy began almost 10 years ago when the U of O Health Center participated in the Campus Health Action on Tobacco, or CHAT, study out of the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. As a participating college in the intervention group for the trial, this opportunity was the jumpstart for the Health Promotion Department's work on developing and implementing policies for tobacco control, which began with banning the sale of tobacco on the U of O campus in 2004. Since that time, the Health Promotion Department, along with peer health educators and students on the university's Student Health Advisory Committee, have been engaged in a major effort to enact a smoke and tobacco-free campus policy, which resulted in the University of Oregon becoming the first 100% smoke and tobacco-free university campus in the Pacific Northwest on September 1st, 2012. So before I hand it over to Andy to share his expertise, I'd like to just share some information about the Fresh Air Campus Challenge, which is a first-of-its-kind region-wide effort to encourage universities, community, vocational, and technical colleges to go 100% smoke or tobacco-free. This is really a collaborative effort among the tobacco prevention programs in Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, our regional offices, and our local partners. In the short term, our goal is to have all campuses of higher education in our four-state region to sign on to the challenge and take meaningful steps towards the adoption and implementation of a smoke or tobacco-free policy. We really want all campuses to at least start the conversation and explore what that process may look like on their campus. And in the long term, we hope that all campuses in Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington are 100% smoke or tobacco-free by 2016. And it's an ambitious goal, but we believe it's attainable. Just to highlight some of the challenge materials that we have available for campuses and our partners, we have 3 background documents that you all might find helpful. First is our challenge overview, which provides details about the challenge, along with how campuses can sign up to be a Fresh Air campus. But it also works to help present the case for why a campus should be smoke or tobacco-free. We also have an overview document describing the Gold Campus Mentor aspect of our challenge. And one of the benefits of our campus participating in our Fresh Air Campus Challenge is not only to have access to technical assistance from our local, state, and federal tobacco experts, but campuses are also paired with a mentor campus. Fresh Air Gold Campus Mentors are campuses that have successfully implemented a 100% smoker tobacco-free campus policy and have agreed to mentor 1 to 2 campuses that are working towards a smoker tobacco-free policy. This overview document describes more in detail what it means to be a mentor campus. And lastly, we have our comprehensive Q&A document, which answers questions such as, what is my campus committing to by signing on to the challenge? How much work is involved in going smoker tobacco-free? What other campuses have gone smoker tobacco-free? And where can I get more information on smoke and tobacco-free campus policies? We have several online Fresh Air Campus Challenge resources, the first being our challenge website, which is hosted by the Northwest Center for Public Health Practice and contains information about the challenge, links to the challenge backgrounders I just discussed, and includes a link to the online commitment form and archived Fresh Air Campus webinars, including this webinar. A large component of our challenge is also to build up a network of campus and community experts to share tools, materials, and lessons learned. And one way we are doing this is through our online collaborative site, aka the Fresh Air Campus Community, which is a membership-based website where campus and community advocates can access information, tools, pose questions, share information, and just connect with your peers. This is also where we will be posting the latest information on challenge activities, tools, and learning opportunities. And I encourage you all to sign up to be a member of our Fresh Air Campus Community and join the discussion. And this is the link where you can sign up. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Andy Rigsby with GMMB. Andy, go ahead and press *6 to unmute your line.
Perfect. Thanks, Molly. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for the introduction, Molly, and I'm really happy to be here today to talk a little bit about communication strategy and specifically media relations strategies to help communicate the launch of a smoker tobacco-free policy on your campus or the announcement of your joining the Fresh Air Campus Challenge here in the Pacific Northwest. We think communication support is one of the best strategies in our tool belt to help make sure that we not only benefit from the policy change, but that the broader campus community and community around the campus understands the importance of smoke-free environments and the importance of this kind of policy change work. But why do we conduct this kind of outreach? Why don't we just sort of fly below the radar? Because we know that it can be a little bit sticky sometimes in terms of the public dialogue around smoke-free areas. Well, one is to build community and campus support for the policy change effort, but another is to control the message, because we know that if we don't get out there and tell our story from the campus and the public health perspective, then we run the risk that somebody else is going to tell it for us in a way that we don't want them to, or using the words or the messages that we don't want them to. So this is one way to avert that. But another key point actually is that where a policy change might come and go without its due notice, we have an opportunity to make sure that people do take notice and capitalize on that key moment to continue raising awareness of the health effects of tobacco use and secondhand smoke, which is really what these policy change efforts are really about. And so it's our opportunity to make sure that we don't miss that opportunity. We wanted today to really go through a few best practices for media outreach. And we know that on this call we've probably got folks from a huge variety of backgrounds with regards to conducting this kind of work. And so what we've tried to develop is a bit of a 15-minute crash course in the practical mechanics of reaching out to the media to get your story told and covered. And then we hope that the Q&A period at the end will be an opportunity to dig deeper for those of you that have a few additional questions. And, of course, we're always here for technical support over the coming year as you are looking to really conduct this kind of outreach as you join the Fresh Air Campus Challenge or your campus announces its smoke or tobacco-free policy. So this is just a quick look at the topics we're going to cover today: developing your story, preparing spokespeople, creating your outreach plan, pitching outlets, and then tracking successes. First, a note about developing your story. We haven't left you completely without tools in this regard. What we did, and hopefully you received before this webinar, is a template press release. It's what we call a Swiss cheese press release. for announcing a smoke or tobacco-free policy. And what you'll see in that document is bracketed information throughout that needs to be updated and filled with the tailored local information that's accurate to your college or university campus. You, of course, want to make sure that the appropriate logos, whether from your campus or from public health partners locally, are involved, that the quotes are tailored and approved by the spokespeople. You'll see that we have included one from our Assistant Surgeon General for the region, Patrick O'Carroll. You are welcome to use that quote if you would like, or replace it with something more locally. There are facts throughout the press release, like, for example, the current number of campuses that have joined the Fresh Air Campus Challenge in the Northwest. Please make sure that you highlight those facts and make sure that they're up to date with Molly before using the press release or a version of it. And then, of course, more tailored information like your campus next steps for going smoke or tobacco-free and other boilerplate language. But just to note, this is really just a guide. Consider it a tool for you to help think about how to tell your story and to tell it most effectively. By no means do we want to be prescriptive. What we've done here is, in a somewhat generic way, do what we do with all press releases, which is to lead with the most important message first, and that's the headline. And then with each subsequent sentence and paragraph throughout the press release, we add more detail and important context for the importance of smoke and tobacco-free policies on college campuses. Next, you'll want to start thinking about preparing spokespeople and identifying them well in advance of your outreach effort. The point here is really to consider getting the broadest possible cross-section of spokespeople to speak on behalf of this policy change effort. On your campus, that might range from your campus president to a student who's been really actively involved in the policy change effort and leading the charge. But we've included here the idea that you might want to think broader and reach out into the community and the health community to provide outside validators. So, for example, if you come from a smaller community where the mayor or the city council has been actively involved in promoting smoke-free environments, it might be appropriate to incorporate them, both because they have established credibility, but also because they might lend some profile and visibility to your effort. And if you have an event on campus, always good to consider bringing them on board to be present as you announce your smoke or tobacco-free policy. A quick note on crafting your message, and we will get into talking points here very shortly, but this is just a really simple way for you and your spokespeople to think about how to actually compose a brief, concise, but compelling message with regards to your smoke or tobacco-free policy. So I'm going to pretend for a moment I work on Lake Union in Seattle, so let's say I go to South Lake Union Community College. If I am to contain in a few sentences our policy change effort and what you might even think of as an elevator speech, I might say it like this. At Lake Union Community College, we value the health of our entire community, students, faculty, staff, and visitors, yet we know that about 20% of our students continue to smoke. This isn't only harmful to their health, it's harmful to the health of our entire community. That's why we're adopting a tobacco-free policy, to ensure that we're creating the kind of environment where all our community members can thrive. You can support the effort by visiting our webpage at Lake Union Community College/tobacco-free. And you can see there that it's a very quick, concise way of telling the entire story arc of what your policy change is really about. But we've actually provided a little bit greater detail in advance of the webinar. Hopefully you've also received talking points that summarize the key pieces and categories of information that you need. And you can use this document to prepare your spokespeople in advance. But we hope that you will, like the press release, dig in and tailor it, make sure that it contains the information that you need. It's very brief. It's one page of talking points, and that is by design. And the reason is when you are speaking with the media, whether it's through your press release or in an on-camera interview, you have a very brief amount of time with which to get your message across. And so you should think about that as being 30 to 60 seconds maximum in which to not only get across, but hopefully repeat once or twice the key messages that you really think are most important. So in that one page of talking points, we've addressed background on the Fresh Air Campus Challenge, the importance of smoke and tobacco-free campuses, the health effects of secondhand smoke, and then on the flip side, we've provided some Q&A, some tough Q&A. With regard to that tough Q&A, the key here is to make sure that when you get asked a tricky question, that you are providing a simple, a short and sweet response that stays, as we say, on message. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. First, does a smoke or tobacco-free policy impede on another person's rights? A really simple and easy way to address this without getting into the weeds or letting yourself feel uncomfortable by the question would be to say, everyone has a right to breathe clean air where they live, work, study, and play. At Lake Union Community College, we have a responsibility to provide a safe environment for our students, staff, and visitors. By adopting a smoke or tobacco-free policy, we aren't prohibiting people from using tobacco products. We're simply prohibiting their use on campus. And so it's a way of really returning to the key message, which is the health importance of this policy change effort to your entire campus community, and then reinstating that you're not actually taking away the rights of students who may use tobacco, simply prohibiting their use on campus. Another way that tough Q&A comes up is when you get asked a question where it's not necessarily politically sensitive, but it might be a little bit tricky in terms of the nuances and the verbiage you use to respond. So, for example, what's the difference between a smoke and tobacco-free policy? Just make sure you know in advance exactly what the answer to that is. So, for example, a smoke-free policy prohibits any products that emit smoke from being used anywhere on campus at any time, and a tobacco-free policy is more comprehensive and prohibits both tobacco products and any products that emit smoke from being used anywhere on campus at any time. You might consider following that up with a statement like this. Of the colleges and universities in the Pacific Northwest that have already implemented the policy, 37 out of 38 have chosen to be tobacco-free. And that is a subtle yet direct way of indicating that the trend is actually moving in the direction of more comprehensive tobacco-free policies, not just smoke-free policies, which is what people most identify with today because of so many smoke-free indoor air laws at the statewide level. Next, a bit about developing your media outreach plan. The most important thing as you lead up to distributing a press release is making sure that you have sort of done your homework. So in advance, identifying your target outlets and reporters, really what are the news stations, newspapers, health reporters that you're going to be reaching out to. You want to have them in a simple spreadsheet so that on the day of your pitch, you can just refer to that list and call through your contacts and email them as well. And we'll talk more about that. But we'd also encourage with this kind of announcement to be creative with who you pitch. Since you're already going to all of this effort to get your message across, don't stop at mainstream outlets, but consider school newspapers, neighborhood blogs, education blogs, and others, because there's a good chance that with a tailored person like you, a local person like you doing the outreach, that a local contact with these types of online outlets will actually result in very favorable coverage that reaches more people. And then finally, because you've developed your story, you might also consider drafting an op-ed for a high-level spokesperson or personality on campus or in the community to congratulate your campus on going smoke-free and using sort of their station in the community to applaud your effort and lend more visibility to it. You can use the press release that you've been provided as a starter guide with key messages to help design what that would look like, but ideally with a more personalized voice from that individual who will be the author of the op-ed. A quick note on developing a media list. This is actually just a snapshot of the 4 major categories of media that we think about and the specific individuals in each newsroom that you want to reach out to. Typically, when I'm reaching out to reporters, I try to send the email to the reporter that I would like to cover the story. But on the CC line, I put an editor, an assignment editor preferably, and then I also add the news tips email addresses. For most stations, you can find this contact information on their websites. The news tips email addresses are like, for example, if it's Como TV, it's like news@como4.com, and that makes sure that it goes to an on-site active set of assignment editors in the newsroom working at that time. And so it ensures that your press release will get seen. This is a bit of a sidebar, and we'll come back to the pitch at hand. In the event that you are conducting an event on campus, whether a press conference or something similar to help lend visibility and announce your policy, if you're inviting media, you'll want to send a media advisory in advance. And usually that's anywhere from 3 days to a week in advance of the actual event. And that will include the who, what, when, where, and why of your event. You can find templates for this online, but we're also happy to provide a template media advisory for a smoke or tobacco-free policy announcement. When you have an event like that, there are obviously lots of considerations that we can't get into on our call today in terms of event logistics and making sure that you have all the right optics and visuals in order to provide to the media. But just remember that this is an opportunity to package not only the media advisory, but ultimately your press release, the Fresh Air Campus backgrounders, spokesperson bios from those that are speaking, and to include press conference signage at the event as well. And those backgrounders, bios, and the press release are items that you want to make sure that you have on hand for any media that might show up on the day of the event. Back to the actual acts and actions of reaching out to the media. You're going to, in advance, want to draft your pitch emails. So by this time, you have talking points, you have your press release, but you actually need your tools to actually start making those contacts with reporters. So start by putting together a brief pitch email, because the press release has all of the detailed info. So it really provides the headline, what is the news, and then links to any key background information, and then offers a spokesperson interview or more detailed information to the reporter if they were to get back to you. And then you want to reiterate some of those same key points with your pitch points. These are maybe 4 to 5 points, like talking points, that you are going to use specifically when you get on the phone with the reporter to follow up on the email that you sent them with the press release. On the day of the pitch, we recommend that you send the press release along with your pitch email around 9 a.m. or up to 10 a.m., and then begin phone calls approximately 1 hour after you sent the press release out. The most important piece of advice I can provide with regards to making those phone calls is to be concise, to be enthusiastic, and confident, because I will say that reporters, they are our friends, and I think that a lot of people have a little bit of a feeling or a sense that media outreach and talking to reporters can be very intimidating. But remember that you have a good story to tell, and that them doing their jobs well relies on people like you providing this kind of information. So be confident and express that confidence as you approach them with your story. Typically when I call, I will open with something like, this is Andy calling on behalf of the Fresh Air Campus Challenge. I sent you a press release about an hour ago, and I just had a quick question for you. Is this an okay time? And that's a way of opening the conversation to remind them who you are, why you're calling, but also sort of giving them a chance to, if they're on deadline or very busy, they might get off the call and give you an opportunity to call back later. Rarely will I miss the opportunity, having provided that opening, to pitch them on the story that I have. A few don'ts. Don't leave long messages with phone numbers at the end or pitch multiple reporters at the same outlet without their knowledge. Don't read a script. Of course, don't argue with reporters or make up answers when you're on the call with them. Next, making the most of your effort, track your media coverage. Make sure that because you have identified your outlets in advance, that you're going back to their sites afterwards and making sure, confirming whether or not they have run the story. If there's news footage, this is the type of thing that you can then repost on social media sites and share back with Molly and other campuses throughout the region to help others see what it is that you have achieved. Post the press release to campus website and share it with partners for broadest possible uptake. share those articles and news clips with partners, and then you can always consider going back to reporters who covered the announcement and thanking them for it. And that's just a good way to build a long-term relationship with a reporter. Finally, just a very quick note, and we could have done an entire training on leveraging social media, but leading up to your announcement, you'll want to think through the campus communities platforms on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, or whether it actually makes sense for your involvement as the Tobacco-Free initiative on campus to actually set up your own Facebook page. Regardless, consider your platforms and make sure that you're sharing materials, articles, and photos from the press announcement on campus with spokespeople and on public health social media properties. These are all items that you can feed back to Molly, who will be able to make use of them, particularly in the PH Connect site where college campuses are collaborating on this type of work. And then be interactive. As you post items and people respond, be sure to respond to those tweets and comments to help extend the dialogue and the impact of the overall announcement. With that, I am going to hand it over to Paula to tell you a little bit more about practically what this looked like when the University of Oregon did this work themselves. Paula, are you there?
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks, Andy. That was a good lead-in, and having done this, once you do it, then there's all those lessons that would have been nice to know at the get-go sometimes. So I'm Paula State, and the Director of Health Promotion, as we said, at the University Health Center at U of O, and we went smoke and tobacco-free last September 1st. And just want to go through some of the materials we used to communicate that prior to our initiation and some of where we are now. Oh, and I also want to thank Keith Van Norman's my marketing manager. Just the last few years, we actually had a marketing manager in the health center who's, I don't know how we could have done this without him, because even though we're a large institution, you know, you're very decentralized in these efforts. And also we had two student workers, Ryan Lynch last year and Scott Warnicke this year, who have been very helpful. As Andy said, it's you want to create some hype in media around this, and when we were finally, after years of work, we're going to announce that we were going to do this. In November 2010, almost 2 years prior to the initiation, we made the announcement. It was just they were just going to kind of say we're doing this, and I said, well, whoa, we need to make this more of an event. So we actually, from the health center, paid for space in our student union, set up a podium and a mic, invited the media, and we had TV there, and also invited, like Renee Klein, who was the CEO of American Lung in our region, and as you can see, our provost made an announcement, and our student body president and the director of the health center. So we put this ad in the student newspaper saying that to celebrate with us and come to the announcement. Prior to communications, to using some of the creative that was provided for us, this was just some of what we had come up with, so just to get the word out. But having worked on this so many years, I kept thinking, how can we make sure everybody knows that this policy is coming, because my assumption was that was contingent on it being successful. And you know the University of Oregon has a connection with Nike, and I'm like, wouldn't it be great to use their creative genius to help us communicate this? And I, in a meeting, had the opportunity to meet one of our development team here who had connections with Nike. That was her kind of contract, and I said, would they be interested in helping us? And she felt it was interesting enough that she allowed us to put a pitch together and ask for their help, and they agreed to do so. So I'm going to show you some of the creative they came up with. We utilized some of it, not all of it, and I just have to say Nike has said that other campuses, if they want to use it, can use this. They just have to be in touch with me and jump through some hoops. So we sat in our new alumni center in this big room, big table, and tripod sitting there. I felt like it was a scene out of Mad Men, with the Nike people came to show us what they came up with, and they put this big poster up that said STFU, Smoke and Tobacco Free University. And there was some chuckles in the room, and to be honest, I did not know the other meaning of STFU. So I will talk about this more later. I'm going to show you some of the other creative they came up with. I'm rushing a little bit because I have quite a few slides, and these will be made available to you guys. Some other creative they gave us was this duck's kick butt, or using something like smoking hot, smoking not. And we had communicated to Nike that we always hear our students smoke because they're stressed, so they created this stress survival image and guide. And this is more on the stress survival, which our student worker last year actually took these two images, created more, and we created a booklet with all these different things students could do on campus besides smoke for their stress. And then on each page, though, you still have the Smoke Tobacco-Free University logo, the STFU, communicating that we are a smoke-free campus. Just some additional creative game over STFU, references, of course, more a football motif. And then we used, as Annie said, to use social media, and we did post on Facebook about the STFU that we were going smoke tobacco-free and that we were going to be giving away T-shirts at one of the football games that actually was covered by ESPN. So the football game, so we went smoke and tobacco-free September of 2012, so you can see this is almost a year ahead, where we purchased 4,000 T-shirts, and there'll be some slides here showing you what we did with those. Our goal was, as it says here, to fill the student section and have them wearing these shirts on national television. And this is what the shirts look like. So on the front, we got permission to use the Oregon O on the shirt, Ducks Kick Butt, Kick on Campus 2012, and then we put the STFU, Smoke and Tobacco-Free University Fall 2012 on the back. We decided we didn't think it'd be appropriate to have STFU across the front on national television. We put an ad in the student newspaper that shirts were going to be given away, and that is this photo on the left. And then you can see this is Ben Eckstein, our student body president at the time, giving a shirt to our president, La Riviere, at the time. And then below, as Annie said, using media, the television, they often contact us, and we work with our media relations because we didn't have permission to contact directly our local television. So they would contact media relations, and then they would put them in touch with us. But that is a colleague and me being interviewed by the local television, wearing our Ducks Kick Butt shirt. And this is just a scene of what it looked like having all these 4,000 T-shirts in these boxes, and we had students help give these out as they filed into the football game. Another thing, we had my vice president, Robin Holmes, of Student Affairs, sent out an email to all students, faculty, and staff saying that we were becoming a smoke and tobacco-free campus the following year. And if they had questions, they could contact either myself or my colleague, Marcy Torres. And just an example of the response we got, this student sent an email to Marcy and I and U of O Communications just thanking us from the bottom of his heart and lungs. Being a student who is offended by the smoke and has had issues with coughing by walking by someone, was just very appreciative that this was coming. And as Andy said, using Facebook and saying next fall we would become a smoke and tobacco-free. We were the first campus in the Pac-12. Oregon State University went smoke-free on the same date as us. We did that purposely. We were the first to announce, and they announced right after us. And we had, after the Facebook posting, 700 likes and many comments in one day. And then back to the STFU, we got permission from our branding person here at the university and from our vice president to push this out, understanding it could be, and it was, controversial. We made posters of STFU and, the Smoke and Tobacco-Free University underneath, and as you can see, communicated fall 2012. And we put these around campus, and it did, there's lessons learned. We would have communicated ahead of time these were going out, reminded our colleagues that these were geared towards the students and not faculty and staff to get student attention. Lessons learned after, I guess. But the one thing that this poster did was it created, controversy, which created dialogue and awareness. So we don't have direct data to say this because of this creative that went out, why we had such a huge amount of awareness, but I certainly think it was part of it. Another thing we did is got permission. We worked with our colleagues in the student union and bought a countdown clock. And you can see this on the left there. And that image is a photo that was taken by our student newspaper at the football game when we gave away the T-shirts. So we got permission to use the photo and identify those students and got their permission to have their photo on this countdown clock. And then we made an event out of this where our students on the top right gave away some additional shirts. And on the bottom right, again, you can see a camera there. We had TV media there, and the student in the shirt, it was our student body president, again, Ben Eckstein, and next to him, Robin Holmes, our vice president. So we look for opportunities anytime that we can make a little bit of a press event. We wanted to communicate, too, about our cessation support. So this is just an example of one of our posters that went out. And this is free gum and patches that we had and continue to have for students. And faculty and staff have access through their insurance. Another thing, too, is communicating this in different languages. So spring, before we went smoke and tobacco-free in fall, we created these posters and worked with our professional colleagues in the International Affairs and in the American English Institute office, and they had students that translated this poster, as you can see in English on the left, into 4 languages on the right, which we used. The languages they recommended, the 4 primary, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, and Arabic. Also, we, as well as some of you might have on your campus, these cigarette butt posts to dispose of, ideally cigarette butts. You can see how effective they are. There's a butt at the bottom of it. But my marketing person, Keith, said that this would be great to communicate on these because people, as they're putting this, it would reach those who are smoking on campus and they would see that this policy is coming. So he created these stickers that you could see on the side, say Smoke and Tobacco-Free University, the date, and there's a website attached to that. And here's some example. We had to work with our campus planning, and everything took for us, I don't know if this would be everybody's experience, but more time than anticipated. To get permission to put up permanent signage, we had to go before a committee and propose where we wanted the signs. And initially we had like 30 of the permanent sign places, and we cut it down to about 10. We will be adding some more. But then the parking lots had signage, and we didn't have to go through campus planning to add signs to their signs. So like on the bottom right, that long strip of Smoke and Tobacco-Free University sign, we were able to add beneath some other signs, which gave us more visibility. And as an example, the black dots were the freestanding, what Keith called the freestanding signs, but the additional bigger signs, and the purple dots were parking lot areas where we were able to add a small sign beneath an existing sign. And then, as most of you might have, we had stickers on our doors that we had a 10-foot rule here, and so we had those replaced with these decals. Another thing we did is create a banner on the left, and we put that up across one of our main streets several times, and even several times this year. The banner on the right we did not purchase and end up doing, where you have them along light posts, but that is just an example of what you could do, though. We had a great partnership with LTD, which is Lanes Transit District, our local bus group people, and they came to us, and they actually had a smoke-free campus prior to us, and they have stops, of course, right along our periphery of campus, and they're having issues with people smoking at the bus stops that are supposed to be smoke-free. So we worked together to create more signage around the bus stops, and it helped them communicate that they were smoke-free as well as the campus going smoke-free. Another thing they did for us as well is on the recordings on the bus, like when you exit the bus, they added, like on the stops near campus and also at our football stadium when they dropped shuttle fans there, they added that the University of Oregon is now a smoke and tobacco-free campus. So they've been great partners. Getting back to the awareness, so after using different creative as well as the STFU all of last academic year, last spring, so about a year ago, we worked with the faculty person, Elliot Berkman, who sent out a survey. And as you can see on the left, it says, before taking the survey, were you aware of the University of Oregon's policy? Yes, no. And if you look across, there was, out of 2,500, there was over 2,300 that said yes, they were aware. And then we looked at that, and and correlating with if people had never smoked, if you look at the top column, never smoked, not at all, 2 or 3 times per week, or 3 times, or every day. And, of course, you want to get the ones that smoke, because that's the ones you want to know about it. And just even in the everyday line, you see out of 225 students, 210 said they knew that this policy was coming. So this was 93% of faculty, staff, and students were aware that this policy was coming. Right before September 1st, we had to remove the butt post. So here is a photo of one of the students working with campus planning removing the cigarette butt post on campus. And now I'm showing you some of the things we've done since September 1st, and we created sandwich boards, and we got permission to use the duck. And so we have also other images as well, but had these sandwich boards we put out in front of the health center, and they get moved around campus. This is a great idea, but there's also labor associated with this, and who's going to take them in and out and get them shuttled across campus. So that's another piece to consider. These are film canisters, which is interesting. Our student worker said he'd never seen one, so it shows how dated I am. But we have some issues now. One is litter at the periphery of campus, which we are continuing to address. But one thing that has been done on other campuses is to create these little film canisters and encourage students to put out their cigarette and throw in this canister until they can get near a trash can and dispose of it. So our goal is to create more of a public awareness campaign around this butt disposal. We also created, and you can see on the table there, the little business cards that say Smoke and Tobacco-Free University. And one of the taglines we use, I don't know if you saw in the permanent signs, because it's for a healthier community and cleaner environment, the University of Oregon is Smoke and Tobacco-Free. So we have that on that card in case anybody wanted to actually give it to someone they might see smoking or using tobacco. And on the back, it has cessation support for faculty and staff, students, and visitors. And this is something that is going up pretty much as we speak in the next week or so. Students came forward from our business school who did not like seeing litter at the edge of campus and one of the primary entrances. So they worked with our student government and got permission and money to buy 2 new trash cans. We did not want ash trays at the edge of campus, but trash cans that are the same that we have inside campus boundaries, to put just outside the campus boundary, and to put a sign that helps communicate that this is for all kinds of litter, including butt litter. And I will show you the next slide. I think shows the sandwich board that we will put near that we have created that talks about cigarette butts are trash, and please extinguish and then throw in a trash can. So that'll be near those trash cans to start addressing butt litter. And we're hoping to work with some students to create more of an awareness campaign around the issue of litter. And I believe the last slide I have is one we created to deal with some of the hot spots, which we call the spots where people are hiding on campus to smoke. And we actually put about 10 or 11 of these signs up a couple weeks ago. And I have to admit, we just did a check. We have permission to put temporary signage, can be up for like 30 days on campus. About half of them are missing, so they have been taken away. So even though we are smoke and tobacco free, and the core campus is, you don't see people smoking, but we still have issues to deal with. But that is a sample of what we used as our marketing materials, and I believe that's it.
Great. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
And before I move into the closing, I just want to give a big thanks to both Andy and Paula for taking the time to be with us today and share your expertise and experience and knowledge in communication strategies for announcing smoke and tobacco-free policies. I want to let all the attendees know we have a couple of upcoming learning opportunities to share. On June 26th, we are hosting our inaugural strategy sharing conference call. So we invite partners and campus advocates and leaders to participate in the call, which will just be a place to share successes, challenges you may be facing on campus as you engage in conversations about smoke and tobacco-free policies, as well as receive and provide advice and guidance from your peers. We also have our next Fresh Air Campus webinar, which we are working to schedule for the fall 2013, and that'll focus on getting started on a smoke or tobacco-free campus initiative and where you can sort of get a movement going. So we are at the, oops, I just skipped one. So I do also want to let everyone know that there are resources available for you and your campus as you work to explore smoke and tobacco-free campus policies. And this is really, like I said earlier, a collaborative effort between our local, state, and federal agencies, and we are all here to help and answer any questions you may have. So I encourage you to either get in contact with your local tobacco partner or myself, and my contact information is there. And I also want to, again, encourage everyone to sign up to be a part of our Fresh Air Campus community, our online collaborative site, and share lessons learned and challenges and just engage with your peers. And the website there is where you can do that. And that brings us to the question portion of our webinar. So I again encourage you to submit questions using the chat feature on the left-hand lower side of your screen. And I will go ahead and moderate these. Paula, it looks like we have a question.
Jen, yes, Jennifer Jordan, and thanks for prompting me. She asked if we worked with the local public health. Local public health has been involved with us for the last 10 years. As Molly said, we worked with Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center initially, and then during that time, a public health colleague, Julie Martin, worked with us, and then Stephanie Young Peterson from Public Health was on our implementation committee, one of the chairs. That was Marcy Torres, myself, and Steph. So, and we continue to work. Many of us got together just a couple weeks ago for our Tobacco-Free Lane County Coalition, revitalizing that as far as our county. But without those partners, we wouldn't have gotten as far as we did. So thank you to our public health colleagues. And thanks, Jennifer, for reminding me.
Great. We had another question that came in, and the question is, both of our campuses are in residential locations. What issues have others faced with neighbors and student staff smoking in the neighborhoods? So I'll open it up to our speakers to see if they have responses. Otherwise, I can take a stab.
Well, I can add one thing. This is Paula. We have a community relations department, and Karen Hyatt also was on our committee. And prior to us going, she sent out an email or letter, I believe it was a letter, to all the surrounding businesses and to let them know this was happening. And generally, there was pretty positive. And then there's just some ongoing dialogue, mostly because of, that letter at the edge of campus that borders some of the businesses. So, Molly, if you wanted to add something.
Yeah, that's great, Paula, and I would recommend early and consistent communications with the neighbors. I think sending out letters when you're first announcing that the policy is coming down the pipe is an effective way to at least engage and start that conversation, and letting your neighbors know that there, could potentially be some issues with smoking on their property, and letting them know that there's a person on campus in which they can contact if there are problems, and just having that open communication has typically been pretty effective. And this is actually a great conversation and question that we can make sure to address on our strategy sharing conference call on the 26th. So I'd encourage you to sign up and hear what your other colleagues have done in that regard. Are there any other questions? Okay, looks like we just had another come in, and the question is, did you do any particular type of signage for student dorms, such as door hangers, etc.? We are thinking of trying something here like that. And I think, Paula,
Well, we did not, but it's not a bad idea. We put posters in the residence halls and, need to work with housing around being able to have access, and some campuses are easier to have access to, like the doors of the rooms and others, but it certainly is not a bad idea, and I would encourage to not only have the signs say that, like, a policy is coming, but also cessation support if you have it, and just use it as an opportunity to get even more information out. But it's a good idea.
Great. Thanks, Paula. I do also want to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available in the next couple of days on our website. So feel free to share that with your colleagues and partners. We have another question regarding enforcement. Who enforces the policy? Paula?
Well, the first, this past year, we've used the educational enforcement, and so basically just reminding people. And we're having discussion now because we have the hotspots of needing to step up and show that, there is some true consequences should you decide to break the law, because we have actually an Oregon administrative rule instead of a policy, which is filed with the Secretary of State of Oregon. It's actually a law and also applies to visitors and not just faculty, staff, and students. So what we wrote into our OAR is that students would be referred to student conduct office, and then they go through a process there which could potentially lead to a fine, as well as maybe community service or just a reminder that it's a policy, and maybe if they're caught again. And faculty and staff, it's like, would be fall under like their supervisors. We keep saying, well, what would you do if your staff was doing anything else that was breaking the law? So we need supervisors to step up, and we also have worked with our UO Police Department, and they've been doing some friendly reminders, and will hopefully start, if they see students, getting their names and reporting them to student conduct, and if their staff, reporting them to the supervisors. We are challenged like many campuses. Everybody's very busy and adding another layer of work to do, but our next step is pulling together this end of this month a committee of folks to address the issue of enforcement, as well as, litter, the hot spots and the secondhand smoke issue on the perimeter campus.
Great. We have another question. After policy implementation, what materials do you hand out to staff, security, et cetera, for how to approach smokers and remind them of the new policy?
Well, I showed, those little business cards that you saw is one thing that they can hand out, and also if people wanted even those canisters, it could be provide an opportunity to talk. We are actually a little bit, still behind on some of this, which is amazing after all this work, but on our website, we need to get some talking points and how to approach someone that smokes. We just encourage people to do it if they're comfortable. They don't have to if they're not comfortable, but it is nice to have something actually to hand someone. And at the beginning, the response was generally a little more positive. I think now if you see someone smoking, they know that they're not supposed to be, and you might come up with someone saying, just kind of blowing you off. So we have more work to do on that.
Great, and I can add some more to that. From what I've seen with other campuses, those policy reminder cards have been really effective, just as a reminder that we are now smoker tobacco-free. And then typically on the back, there's also information about cessation support services that either exist on campus or in the community. I've also seen some creative videos out there, actually, that are one specifically that I can think of comes out of Portland Community College, and if you Google Portland Community College, how to talk with a smoker, it's sort of just a short video that shows, the campus members how they can approach a smoker and deal with violations in a friendly, non-confrontational manner. So there's items that are already out there, or you can work to create your own, developing scripts on, what types of language to use when you're approaching a violator, sort of thing that can be helpful. Looks like we have a couple more questions. This is for Paula. Do you have any data yet on the cost savings for campus maintenance or repair now that you're a tobacco-free campus?
We don't have data yet. We had data. We knew that it was costing for about $8,000 to $10,000 a year, and that was several years ago. So that could be a high number now, just to clean up cigarette butts. But we don't have any data about maintenance repair at this point. And did you provide training in advance? We provide information to staff that we were going to become a smoke tobacco-free campus, but as far as a training, no, that hasn't been done to my best of my knowledge. Like I said, as much as we worked on this, there's always seems like there's more to be done. And like Molly said, there's some great things out there that you can borrow from other campuses as far as like some of the videos.
So we have just a couple of minutes left. If there's any other questions, go ahead and submit them. Otherwise, we will bring it to a close. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and close the webinar. I want to again thank both Andy and Paula for taking the time to be with us today, and to thank everyone who participated in this webinar. And we will post the slides. I believe the slides are already posted, and we'll post the recording on our website in the next couple of days. So thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.